Hello everybody, this is a CSS course, and in this course I'll teach you completely how to use the CSS as a front-end engineer. But first you need to know a little bit about the HTML language. So click on the very top of the screen right here to go to the HTML course. And let's start our course. And let's start with the first one, which is create the file. First and before everything, you have to know how to create the CSS file and link it to the HTML. And here it is. First, you're going to the file, and after that you will go to the new file, and then select the language. You'll select CSS and enter. So now we created a CSS file, and then we need to save this file. So again, you're going to the file, and then you'll choose save as. So you have to choose the same location that our HTML file is saved in. The HTML file that we will tie with our CSS file. So here is our HTML file, and then you have to change the name of the file. First, you're going to write any name. For example, let's write test.css, and then we'll save our file. So now we saved our file, and then we are going to tie it with our HTML file. So here is our HTML file. Inside the head, this element, we're going to write an element which is called link rel and enter. And inside here, you're going to write style sheet. And after that, you write the href and then enter. And then you write the name of your CSS file. The name of our file is test. I see it suggested for me test.css. So let's click on this, and then we will close our element. And let's make some changes on our element in HTML through the CSS file to be sure that CSS file is working with us or not. For example, let's write h1, and inside it let's write welcome. And let's go to our CSS file, and then call the h1, and then let's make some changes. For example, let's change the color. Let's choose the blue. And let's go to the live server if the CSS file working with us or not. I see it changed the color of my text to the blue, and this means the CSS file working with us, and we tie it correctly and we have no problem. And then the syntaxes, how to write your codes, and then learn the ID and class, and here it is. First, if you have an element in our HTML, for example, let's write paragraph and write something inside it, for example, hello world. And let's go to the CSS to call this element. First, we will call this element, for example, is paragraph, and after that you will open the curly braces, this one, and then you will write the code between curly braces. The code consists of two parts. First part is property, and the second part is the value. For example, we have the color. This is the property, and let's give it the value. Let's choose the red and enter. This is the property and this is the value. And between the property and the value, you have to write this colon. And if you want to make two changes or more than two on this element, for example, if I want to make 2 or 3 changes on this element, this paragraph, so you have to close the first one by semicolon. Without using semicolon, it will cause error in your website, of course. So if I don't have the semicolon here and I want to make another change on this element, for example, let's change the size of our font and let's give it the value. Let's choose 15 pixels. How you see here, it says there is a problem because here I didn't use the semicolon. Let's use the semicolon if the problem will fix or not. This is semicolon and the problem fixed, and now we have no problem. So after that, let's learn how to call the elements in the CSS, how to call HTML elements in the CSS. First, we have an attribute we write inside the element first part, the start of the element, which is called the class. And you will give it any name. For example, let's give it the test. And let's go to the CSS to call this function. If I give it the class, you will write in the CSS dot and you will write the name of the class. What is the name of our class? It is test. Let's copy the name of our class and paste it here. And let's make changes on this one. For example, color, let's choose red, enter, and let's go to the live server to see the result, if the class working with us or not. How you see, it shows for me hello world in the red color. And we have another attribute we will write inside elements to call through it the HTML elements. Let's write something inside here, for example, tick. And let's give it the attribute. Our attribute is ID. ID, you will give it any name. It is same the class. Let's give it the name, for example, user. And let's go to the CSS to call this element through ID. So when you write ID, if you want to call an element through ID, you will write the hash, this symbol, and then you write the name of the ID. What is the name of ID? Is user. Let's copy the name of user and go to CSS, paste it, and open the curly braces. Let's make some changes. Let's choose color blue, and let's go to see the result, if it working with us, if the ID working with us or not. How you see, it write for me Ymax tick in blue color. And this is how class and ID works. This is class, the name is test, you will write in the first part of the element, and this is the ID is same of the class. And now you learn how to write your codes and you learn how to call elements from HTML. And after this, I'll explain the background and all that related to the background. And here it is. First, let's make an element here. For example, let's write paragraph. Welcome to my website. And let's go to the CSS. So let's call our paragraph. And let's open the curly braces. So let's start with the first one, which is the background color. This first one. There is a lot of ways to choose the color, and the easiest way to write the name of the color. For example, let's write red. But we have a great number of colors, so it's not reasonable that each color has their own name. For example, let's choose this one. What is the name of this color? These colors. So it's not reasonable that each one has their own name. So we have another way to choose the background color, which is RGB. RGB, red, green, and blue. Let's click enter. Red, green, blue. So it creates colors by mixing the three colors red, green, and blue. These colors intensity expressed by the number, and the number starts from the 0 to 255. And let's use it practically. And let's delete this one. And the first one, let's make it 255, and the second one 0, and the third one 0. And let's go to see the result in the live server. How you see the background color is red. This is because the intensity of green is 0 and the blue is 0 and the red is false. So the result will be red. And let's change it. First one, let's make it 0, and second one 255, and the third one 0. And let's go to see the result. I see the background changed to green because the intensity of the red is 0 and the blue is 0, so green is false. So it will make the background for me in the green color. Let's change it. The first one 0, second one 0, and the third one, let's make it 255. Let's go to see the result. I see background is blue. This is because the intensity of blue is false and red is 0, green is 0. Let's mix them. Let's make this 100, for example, and this 90, and this, let's make it 150. Let's go to see the result. And this color is the result of mixing this range of the colors. So red 150, and green is 90, and blue is 100. And with mixing this intensity for each color, the result will be this color. And we have another thing, which is RGBA. So it is the opacity of the color. The easiest way to choose the opacity of the color is to come here, point this color, and here we have this one. So how you make down the opacity will decrease. And let's go to see the result of this one. How you see the opacity decreased. And let's go to make it 0. Let's make the opacity 0, and let's go to see the color. How you see the color disappears because the opacity of the color is 0. And this is the benefit of the RGBA, which is opacity. And we have another item which is called background image. Background image. First, let's copy this element a lot of times. All my paragraphs should be inside the element. We'll write it inside div dot elements, and enter. We give it the class elements, and let's put all that paragraphs inside this element, which is div. I put them inside the div, and I give it the class which is called elements. And let's copy this one and paste it again, because we need a lot of paragraphs, a lot of elements to show the background of our elements. Let's go to the CSS and let's choose the image. For example, so here we have a tip. I recommend you any file, any picture, any video you want to insert it to your website, put it at the same folder that your HTML file is in, to not face any problem in your website. We have a lot of ways to insert images and file into website, so this is the best way to put the file you want, for example image and videos, anything you want, at the same folder that your HTML file in. So here I put this image at the same file of my HTML file, and this is recommended and is the best way to insert files into your website. And we need another thing, which is URL, and enter, and between double quotes inside this one we need to write the name or the URL of our image. Our image name is meeting, and let's go to see the results in the website. Let's reload this one. How you see, this is the result of the background image. And why it is not just one background and it repeated for me? For this one we have another item which is called the background repeat. Background repeat, here it is, and let's give it the value no repeat. If you choose this option, so the image will not repeat in the background. And let's go to see the result. How you see the background image not repeated. And we have two more values for the background repeat, which is repeat X and repeat Y. Repeat X, let's go to see the result. So repeat X will repeat the background image for me in the X orbit. And we have another value which is the repeat Y. Let's choose it and let's go to see the result, how you see it repeated in the Y orbit. And this is the benefit of repeat item. You can repeat it, you can cancel repeat, and you can repeat it on the X orbit, and you can repeat it on the Y orbit. And we have another item which is called background image linear gradient. And let's delete this one. Let's choose background image linear gradient. This item, linear gradient, creates an image consisting of a progressive transition between two or more colors along a straight line. So let's use it practically. So first color, let's choose the red, and the second one, let's choose the green, and the third one, let's choose blue. And let's go to the live server to see the result of the linear gradient. Let's reload our page. I see this is the result of the linear gradient, and we can make more changes on this one. For example, let's write to top left, and let's go to see the result. How you see it changed to this one. So this one to top left, it means transition from the bottom to top and from the right to the left, and this is the top and left. This is the red and this is the green. This is the first color, so it starts from the bottom to the top. So for this reason the red is in the bottom and the blue is in the top. And let's change the transition. For example, let's choose the bottom and let's go to see the result. How you see this is the red. And let's change the left to the right and let's go to see the result. How you see this is the result of the transition. And now you learned what is the background image linear gradient, and this is so beautiful item in the CSS. I see the background is so beautiful. So we can choose a lot of the colors. For example, let's choose purple. And let's choose the yellow. And let's choose another one. Let's choose black. And let's go to see the result of all these colors. How you see this is the result, how beautiful it is. And we have another item which is called the background attachment. First, let's choose the background image. Let's write our URL, enter double quote, and let's write the name of the image. And the name of our image is missing. Suggest for me directly. And let's use our item which is background attachment, this one. And we will learn only two options of here, which is the fixed and the scroll. First, let us choose the scroll and let's choose the background repeat, no repeat. Background repeat, let's choose no repeat. And let's go to see the result in the live server in the website. And when I scrolling down, so the image will disappear and will move with the text here, and we don't want this. We want the image stay here without the image disappear. And for this one we have another value of background attachment which is called fixed. And let's go to see the result of this one in the website. And let's scroll it. Here let's scroll it. How you see the background stays as it is without moving with the text. And if you notice that the text is moving, how you see, and the background is fixed and not move with the text. And this is the benefit of the background attachment. And we have another element which is called the background size. Let's choose the background size and let's choose the value of background size. So let's choose the 100 pixels and let's go to see the result in the website. So how you see it changed the size of background image to 100 pixels. So let's change it to 200. How you see it make it bigger, and let's make it bigger and bigger. 500. I see this is the result of the background size. And also we can control with the width and the height of the image. And to do this, we need to write two numbers with the pixels. And the first one is width, and the second one is the height of the background image. For example, let's write the first one 200 with the height of 500, this one pixel and this one pixel. And let's go to see the result in the website. How you see this is the result of the size that I determined. 200 in the width and 500 in the height of the image. And we have three more values for the background size. And let's start with the first one, which is the auto. Background size auto, which is the normal size of the photo that we have. How you see this is the normal size of our image. To explain the other value, it is better to change the image to someone which have the background, because this image doesn't have the background. How you see it doesn't contain the background, and we need to change the background image to the image that contain the background. So let's choose the sky, and here I have this image at the same file, this one sky.img, and let's go to choose the cover. Cover is another value of the background size, so this one covers the whole contents that you have in your website. And we have another value which is called content, and let's delete this one, no repeat, and let's go to see the result. And when I change the screen size to big or small, the whole image will show for me and not only the part of the image. How you see the whole image showing on the screen. And this is the benefit of the background size content value. And we have another thing which is called the background position. At first, let's make this background repeat, no repeat, background repeat, let's make it no repeat, and let's learn the background position. Through the background position, you can change the position of the background image, and let's do it practically. Let's choose the top left. I see the position is top left, and let's change it. Let's make this top right. I see top right, and we have top center, I see top center, and we have center, bottom left, and the bottom right. And after that, let's explain the padding, which is related to the distances. First, let's write two elements here to use it practically and to show you the problem and then fix the problem. Because when you're using practically, you will learn better. And let's write h1, close it and write something inside. This is my website. And let's write h6 and to write something inside. For example, hello world. I think H6 is very small. Let's use the H4. This one. And let's write the H4. And let's use it practically. Let's go to the CSS. You see, when writing something inside the HTML without making changes on it by using CSS, it's starting from the first of the page, and this is uncomfortable for some users. And we have to fix this problem, and we want to move our element to anywhere of the screen. And to fix this problem, we have the padding, and let's use it. For example, I think let's use another element. For example, let's use H6 also to be more clear. I think it will be more clear to use 3 elements. For example, let's write the Wemax check. And text to write is not a problem. And let's make changes on the hello world. Hello world is H4. We can give it the class to call it through it, and we can call it through the element name directly, and it's not a problem if we call it through the element name. For example, let's write our H4 and let's open curly braces and write our padding. So we have the padding top, which means padding from the top, and we have padding right, means padding from the right, moving the element from the right, and padding bottom, moving the element from the bottom, and padding left, moving the element from the left. And let's start with the padding top. Padding top, enter, and let's make it 50 pixels. How you see it moved down hello world, and all that have below it 50 pixels. And let's use the padding bottom. Padding bottom, let's use the 50 pixels. To be more clear, we will use the grid numbers. How you see it made padding from the bottom of the hello world with 50 pixels. And let's use the padding left and also 50 pixels. 50 pixels, how you see it moved the hello world from the left by 50 pixels. So when I'm using the padding right, it's not reasonable it make padding for me, because here I have no element to make the padding from it, and this text is so far from the side to make padding from it. And to explain the padding right, we need 2 or 3 elements that are inline elements. For example, we have the span. Let's write span, enter, and let's copy this one and paste it 3 times. And let's copy this one, paste it here, and this one, copy paste it here, copy this one and paste it here. And let's give to the first one a class. For example, let's use YO, and let's go to the CSS to call our element and use the padding right. Let's write dot and the name of the class YO, open curly braces, enter, and let's use the padding right. Padding right, let's choose the 40 pixels. How you see it makes the padding from the right by 30 pixels. And this because we have the elements in the right side of the text of this text. This is my website. And we can use the padding right on this one also, because we have an element in the right of this one also. Let's give this one the class. For example, let's choose the user. Any name you want to give it is okay. And let's go to the CSS to color element. Let's write dot because we have the class. And let's write the name of our class is user, open curly braces, using the padding right. Padding right, and let's choose the 40 pixels. I see it make the padding right 30 pixels. But when I'm using the padding right on the last one, it will not work on it because we have no element in the right side of this one. And let's use it, does it will work or not. Let's give this one ID. ID or class is not a problem, but we will use the ID also because we used class a lot of times. Let's give it the ID, for example, test. Let's go to the CSS to call the element. Because we use the ID, because we give it the ID, we'll use the hash. And let's write the name of our ID, which is the test. Let's open the curly braces and let's make the padding right. And let's choose 40 pixels. Does it will work or not? I see it will not work, and this is clear because we have no element in the right side of this one. And this is what is the padding can do for us, and this is so important item in the CSS language. And then let's go to the margin, which is also related to the distances. And here it is. First, if we have this element is here, I have 3 elements inside the div, and I gave the class to div which is called the user. We will call this element through the class. And let's go to the CSS. The way to use the margin, it is the same as using the padding, but it is different in the way that will affect on the element. And we will prove that through using it practically. And let's start using it practically. First, let's give the background color to the div element to all the content inside the div. Let's go to change the background. Let's write dot and the name of the class, open curly braces, and let's choose the background color. Let's choose the blue, for example, and then let's use the margin. Let's make the margin top, for example, let's choose 50 pixels. How you see it moves the element with the background, but when we are trying the padding top, let's use the padding top the same 50 pixels. How you see it moves just the element, and this is the difference of the padding from the margin. Padding moving the elements only, but the margin moves the background with the elements. And also we have the margin right, margin left, and margin bottom. Let's use them. Let's delete this one. Now you know the difference between them. Let's delete this. And let's use the margin right. margin right, let's choose the 50 pixels. How it makes the margin right 50 pixels. And let's make the margin bottom, let's choose 50 pixels. You see, when we are using the margin bottom, it will not change anything because here we have no element and this is so far from the bottom of the website. And to prove that, let's use another element. For example, let's write the, for example, paragraph, and let's write something inside it. For example, welcome to India. And let's copy this one and let's paste it. And let's change the background of the paragraph. Background. Let's choose the background color. Let's choose the red to be clear. And let's delete this one and write it again. And let's see it. For example, let's choose the margin 100 to be more clear. How you see, it makes the margin bottom 100 pixels. And to be more clear, let's use 200. Maybe you don't notice it. How you see it make margin bottom. Why this works and before not? Because we have the element under this one, and this is the reason this works and the before is not. And we have the margin left. Let's use it. Margin left. Let's choose 50 pixels. How you see, it makes the margin left 50 pixels. And now you learned how to make the margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. And we have another thing which we can use the minus numbers inside the margin. For example, let's delete this one and let's use the margin top. Let's choose minus 50 pixels. How you see, it disappears a part of this element because we use the minus numbers inside the margin. You will need this step when you have the space here and you want to move the element to up a little bit. For example, we have some space here and we can change the margin top to minus, and let's use the margin top. Let's use the 20 pixels, minus 20 pixels. How you see, it makes the margin top minus 20 pixels for each element, between this one, and between all of them, and between this element and this one. Between this element and this one, the blue one and the red one. And now you learned how to use minus numbers in the margin. And this is the benefit of the minus. Let's delete this one as it turned back.
And after that, let's explain the border and how to make a border for an element. And let's go.
We have these elements here inside the div, and the class is user. And here in CSS, I make the padding left 100 pixel to be more clear. And let's start with making border. First one, let's write the border. We can write the border in two types. First one is this way. We will write the border color, for example, or border width. You will determine some pixels. For example, I will determine 2 pixels. This is the width of the border, and After that, I will choose the border style. These all are the border styles. For example, I'll choose the double. And the third step is border color. Let's choose the border color. Let's choose blue. And this is how to make a border for an element. And I can control with the pixels, with the style of the border and the color of the border. Let's make this 5. How you see it changed the width of the border. So can I control with the sides of the border? For example, this one not the same of this one. Yes, you can. We can change every side of it. And this is how to control the sides of the border. First one is top, and the second one I'll make it 2 pixels, and the third one I'll make it 7 pixels, and the fourth one I'll make it the 10 pixels. The first one is top 5 pixels, and the second one is the right, which is 2 pixels. I see it is smaller than everyone. And this is 7 pixels, which is the bottom, and this is 10 pixels, which is greater than all of them. And this is how to control the sides of the border. And can I control with the style of the border? Of course you can. For example, let's choose the solid. This is the right one. I see it make it solid, and another one, let's make solid, and the solid. I see this is how it's working, and we can control the color of the border, the sides of the border with color. First one is top, we choose the blue, and the second one, let's choose red. I see it changed to red, and you see, because I just determined the top and the right, so everyone will take the color of the opposite of it. For example, this one takes this color, and this one takes this color. And if I choose only one color, so it is for all the sides of the border. And let's turn this back. This is red, and the third one, let's choose yellow. I see change it to the yellow, and we can control the other side also. Let's choose green. Enter. How you see this is how it's working. We can control the all sides of it with the color, style, or the width of the border. And we have another way to write the border, which is easier than this. Let's delete this one. You will only write the border, and then you write the width of the border, for example 2 pixels or 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and then the color. Or you can write the color first, it's not a problem. Anyone is first or the last, it's not a problem. And let's write the color of the border. Let's write red. Just red. And then let's determine the style of the border. For example, let's choose double. I see this is how this step is working, and it's easier than the first step.
And after that, let's go to the visibility of the element.
First, if we have this element is here, and each one is inside the different div, and let's change the class of this one. For example, let's change to the test, because they should not be the same. And let's copy this one and paste it, and change the name of the class to the test. to make a border for it. We have these two elements here, two divs, and inside the div we have some elements. We want make some one of them hidden. We don't want to show it on our website, and let's do it practically. We have the item which is called the visibility. Visibility, we have the hidden and the visible. First, let's choose the hidden. How see it hide this element from the website, and the second one is still visible in the website. And let's make it visible. Let's change this to visible. Visible, how see it shows on our website. And the second one, let's choose the visibility. Visibility hidden. How see it hide the element from the website. And this is used for when you want to hide something from your website. You want to be in your website to show in a specific time and not the certain time. But when you're going to the inspect of the website, and when you're going to the elements, let's make this one small to show our elements, and let's click on the body to show the elements inside the body. You see when you point to this one, it shows the space here that we have an element here, but it is hidden in the CSS. How you see this is elements inside, and it says to us that this element is hidden. We have the space of it, but it is hidden. And also we'll make this one hidden, enter, and when we are pointing to the first one, it says this is the place of the first one. And let's go to point the second one, second div. This is the class test. When we are pointing, it says this is the place of the second one, but the both of them are hidden in our website. When we are deleting this one, it shows in our website without any problems. And how I told you, this is important when you want to delete something from your website for a period of time and not forever.
And then let's go to the display and how it works.
Display is responsible on your items view in the website. We have three values for display, which are block, inline, and the inline block. And let's start compare between them. For example, if I have these three divs here, and each one have the different background color. And let's go to the CSS and start with the first one, which is block. Let's call our div and choose the display block. Display block. You see when you choose the display block and without determining the width, it will take the full line or the full width. And if you want to change the width, it's not a problem, it will change as you want it. And let's change the width to prove that. Width, enter. Let's change the width to 50%. How you see it changed the width without any problems. And let's delete this one. And block value takes a break for the element which comes after it. How you see they are not in one line, each one is in the different line. And also block accepts every changes, for example padding and the margin or anything else. Let's change the padding, for example padding, enter, and let's choose the 10 pixels. How you see it makes padding 10 pixels. Let's choose the greater number, for example let's choose 20. 20 pixels, and let's use the margin. Does it will accept it or not? Let's choose 20 pixels. I see it make margin also without any problems. And let's learn the second value, which is inline. Inline value makes all elements in one line or one beside another, means doesn't make a break for another element. And let's use it practically. Let's choose the display, enter. Let's choose the inline. How you see, it makes all elements one beside another. It makes all of them in one line. And the inline value accepts the padding and the margin only from the right and the left. Doesn't accept it from the top and the bottom. And let's use it practically to prove that. And to prove that, I think we need another element here. Use this one paragraph and write inside it block. Now let's go to the CSS and choose the padding and the margin. First, let's choose the padding, enter, and then 5 pixels. How see it makes the padding from the right and the left of the words. And let's use the margin, and let's choose the 20 pixels. I see it only makes the margin from the right and the left of the elements, and it doesn't make the margin from the bottom and the top of the elements. And this is the difference between the inline and the block property in the CSS. And the last property, which is inline block. Inline block is almost like a mix between the inline and block value. Let's use it practically. Let's delete this one and let's change this one to the inline block. Enter. Inline block value makes all elements in one line and accepts the every changes on it, margin, padding, and all of them without any problems. And it accepts the margin and the padding from all of these sides, not like in the inline. Inline is accepting the margin and the padding only from the right and the left, and inline block accepts from all sides of the element. And let's use it practically. Let's use the margin, let's choose the 20 pixels. How you see it makes the margin from all the sides of the elements, and let's choose the greater number, for example 50. How you see it makes the margin from the all of the sides of the element.
And now we will learn a very important thing in the CSS, which is nesting and grouping. First, let's talk about the grouping. For example, if I have these elements here, and I want to call all of them in one step. So to do this, first let's delete this one. We have 3 elements, we want to call them in one step. So to do this, we have the paragraph. So you will write paragraph and then comma, and then another element. The other element is h1 and then comma, and then you write the div and open curly braces. So after that you are going to make changes on it. For example, background color, let's make it any color, aqua. How you see it changed the background of all of them in one step. So this is what grouping means. You can call several elements in one step, and this is the benefit of the grouping. And then let's learn what is the nesting. When you have element inside element and you want to call the last element without using class or the ID. How to do this? So let's write our elements. For example, if I have the div here, and inside the div I have two elements, paragraph, and inside the hello world. And I have h1, and inside it welcome. I have these two elements inside the div. I want to call the h1 only, not all the paragraph. If I call div, so it will change both of them. So I want to do it on the h1 only. So to do this, we have the nesting. So first you write the first element, which is div, and inside the div we have an element which is called h1. Go and call h1, and let's change the background color. For example, background color, let's choose the aqua. How see it change the color of background color of the h1 only. And if I want to change the background of the paragraph, let's delete this one and write paragraph instead. How see change the background of the paragraph. And after that, let's go to the height, width, and the overflow of the elements.
First, let's write an element. For example, let's write the div and let's write something inside it. For example, let's write hello world. And let's go to the CSS to call our element. Our element name is div. Open curly braces, enter. And then let's change the background of it to be more clear for you. Let's choose red. Enter. This is our element. So we want to change the width and the height of this element. First, let's start with the width. So what you're gonna do is only write the width. Enter. And then choose a number or size you want. For example, 400 pixels. How see it change the width of it to 400 pixels. Smaller number, let's choose 250. How see it change to 250 pixels. And also we have the minimum width and the maximum width. So first let's change the display to the inline block. Let's delete this one. So we chose this one just to fit our text inside the element, which is hello world. And also because it is accepts the width and the height and every changes on it. So let's start with the minimum width. Let's click enter. Minimum width, enter, and let's determine size. For example, 250 pixels. Minimum width means the minimum width that starts from, and the maximum width means the width not exceed from the determined width. It's like the start and the end of the width. So you will determine a range that will start from the first one and not exceed the last one, and this is what the minimum and the maximum width mean. So let's start with the minimum width. We determined 250. How you see it started from the 250, and this is the minimum width. and then let's determine the maximum width. Maximum width, so not exceed the 300 or 400 pixels. So you see, when we want to write a lot of text inside here, so will not exceed 400 pixels. So let's try it practically. Let's copy this one, paste it a lot of times. How you see, it will not exceed 400. So let's try a lot of it. So how you see, it will not exceed 400. How much you write will not exceed 400 because this is the maximum width and the minimum width. So even if I write one word only, so it will start from the 250 pixels, and this is what minimum width means. How you see, it's just one word, hello, and the minimum width is 250. And when I try to write a lot of text here, so it will not exceed 400. And I hope this information is clear for you. And also we have height. Let's learn it also. Let's write height, enter, and let's determine a number. For example, let's determine 300 pixels. This is the height of our element. It is very easy and simple to determine a height. So also we have a minimum height and the maximum height. Let's try it practically. Start from minimum height. Let's determine 250 pixels. And the maximum height, let's determine the 300 pixels. So this is the minimum height that will start from, and this is which the text not exceed here. So let's duplicate this one. Let's copy this one and paste it a lot of times. So how you see here, the background is 300 pixels and we have no problem with the background, but the text gets outside of the background, and this is a problem for us. So how to fix this problem? So now we determine the 250 is at least start from 250 pixels the height, and the maximum height is 300. So this is 300 pixels, and I wrote a lot of text so it gets outside of the background. So how to fix this problem? We have overflow, we have hidden scroll, and we have auto. So let's start first with the hidden. How you see, it deletes all the text that gets outside of the range that I determined. And we have another value which is the scroll. So here it does not delete the text. So here we have scroll, we can see all of the text that we write. How you see, we can scroll this one to see all the text that wrote here. But here we have another problem. So even the text does not exceed the maximum width, it will show this scroll for me. So let's delete this one to prove that. So how you see, the text did not get out of the range and it shows this scroll for me, and this is a big problem. So how to fix this problem? We have another value of the overflow which is auto. Let's delete this one and change to auto. Auto says when you have a text gets outside of the range, so it will show this scroll for you, and if you don't have, it will not show the scroll. How you see, we have no scroll here. And let's add more text here to prove that. How see it shows the scroll for me. And this is what the overflow and how it works and the benefit of the overflow.
And then let's go to the text shadow, how to make a shade for the text.
First, let's write an element here and write something inside it. Let's write h1 and to write, for example, watermark stick. And let's go to the CSS to call our element. Our element is h1. And let's write the text shadow. Text shadow. Text shadow requires us 4 things: the horizontal shadow, the vertical shadow, the blur of the shadow, and the color of the shadow. The first one, let's write the horizontal shadow, and the horizontal shadow, vertical shadow, and the blur of the shadow, we will determine it by the numbers, and the color, you will choose a color among all of the colors. And let's write the horizontal shadow, for example, 10 pixels. And the vertical shadow, 10 pixels. And then the blur of the shadow, let's make it 4 pixels. And then the color of the shadow, let's choose the red. I see this is how to make a shadow for a text in the CSS, and we can change the horizontal and the vertical or the blur of the shadow, and also we can change the color of it. And let's use it practically to be more clear. I see change it, let's make this 2, the shadow to be more clear, and this one let's make it 20, this is 15. I see this is how the text shadow works.
And now I am going to explain the font size and the font weight. First, let's write an element here. For example, let's write the paragraph. Inside it, let's write a sentence. For example, welcome to America. And then let's go to the CSS. Let's call our element is paragraph, open curly braces. And then let's start with the first one, which is the font size. You will use font size when you want to change the size of your text. So you will determine it by the pixels. For example, I will make it 10 pixels. I see it change it to 10 pixels, and also we can determine the big numbers, 100 or 50 pixels. And also you can determine it by the REM. For example, 10 REM. I see this is the REM. And this is how to change the font size in the CSS. And let's learn the font weight. Also, let's write font weight. We have font weight. But the font weight does not support some font families. So for this one, we cannot use pixels. So instead of the pixels, we will write the bold or the bolder. We have bold and we have bolder. I see. This is how to use the font weight. And after that, I'm going to explain the text align, text decoration, and the text transform. And here we go.
Let's start with the first one, which is the text alignment. First, if we have this element here, h1 enter, and I have something inside it, for example, wiremax tick, and let's use the text alignment. Let's go to CSS to call our element is h1 and open curly braces, and then let's write the text align, text align. So text align has the three major values, which is center and the left and the right. So text align now is the left because the language is English, and let's change it to the center. How you see it changed the position of it to the center. And text align is used when you want to change the position of your text to left, center, or the right. And let's use the other values also. Let's use the right. Enter. So I see this is the right of the text align. Another value we have the left, which is the main position of the text because the language is English. Let's write the left. I see changed the position to the left. And let's go to the next one, which is the text decoration. Text decoration have the four major values, which are line through, overline, underline, and the none. These are four major values for the text decoration, and let's use it practically. Text decoration, and let's use first one is line through. How you see it make it line through as something is deleted. And the other value, which is underline. Underline. How you see it makes underline for us like a word which is specific in the paragraph. And let's use the other one, which is overline. Overline used rarely. I see it makes for me the overline. And the other one, and to use this practically, we'll write a link here which is underlined. Let's write A, let's write Google, and inside this let's write Google. How you see this is underlined, and let's go to the CSS to call our element, which is a open curly braces, and let's use the text decoration. Text decoration, let's choose none. How you see it deleted the underline for me, so now this link is not underlined. And this is the benefit of the text decoration, and it's so easy for using it. And let's go to the next one, which is the text transform. So let's delete this one, and let's delete this one. We have each one here, and let's use the text transform. Text transform, we have these values, and the major one, which is capitalized, lowercase, and the uppercase. And let's use it practically. So let's choose this value, uppercase. How is it transformed the all letters here to the capital letters? And the other value, which is the lowercase. So we have lowercase, and you will not see any changes here because the letters are also lowercase. And let's change this one to the uppercase to see changes. So let's change to the capital watermarks. How you see I change it to the capital letters, and also see here in the lowercase, in the small letters, and this is the effect of the lowercase in text transform property. And the capitalized value, capitalized, it will transform the first letter of each word to the capital letter. And this is what is the benefit of the text alignment, text decoration, and the text transform.
And now, what is the text spacing?
First, if I have an element here and I have a sentence inside it, for example, welcome to my channel. If I have this sentence here, let's go to the CSS. Text spacing, you will use it when you want to make a spacing between the words and between the letters. And we have the word spacing and we have the letter spacing. And first, let's call our element. Our element is the paragraph. And then let's write the word spacing. Word spacing, here is it. So you will determine it by pixels. For example, let's make 10 pixels. How see it makes spacing between the words only. And we have the letter spacing. Letter spacing, let's make it 10 pixels. How does it make the spacing between the letters in the words? So this is the difference between the word spacing and the letter spacing, and this is how the text spacing works. And I think this is the easy lesson, and it's easy to learn it and also easy to apply. And then what is the text direction and how to use it?
So first, if we have an element here, for example, let's write the paragraph and to write something inside it. I am from America, and then we will write the dot at the end of the sentence. This dot, this one, will make our work easier to learn the direction in the CSS. So this is the reason we use the dot. So let's go to the CSS to call our element. So CSS, our element is paragraph, open curly braces, and then let's write direction. We have two major values for the direction. LTR means left to right, and the RTL means right to left. And let's use the second one, RTL, right to left. How does it change the direction of the text from the left to right to the right to left? My text was starting from the left to the right, and by using this item right to left, I say change the direction of my text from the left to right to the right to left. How you see, this is right and this is the end. It means this is the end of my sentence, so it changed the position of the dot to the first of the sentence, but it is starting from the right and this is the end of the sentence. Because I said right to left, it means start from the right and end in the left. All the English sentence starts from the left to right. Even if I don't write the direction, it will start from the left to the right. And let's use it, but you will not see any changes. How see you will not see any changes in the left to right because the English text is starts from the left and ends in the right.
And now I'm going to explain the most important thing in the course, which is the mouse cursor. First, if I have this element here and I have this sentence inside it, and let's go to CSS to call our element. Paragraph is our element. Now we called our element. So now let's write the cursor. In the cursor, we have these values, which is pointer, grab, all scroll, cell, copy, resize, and resize, content menu, call resize, and the alias. And let's start with the first one, which is the pointer. Let's write the pointer. So you see when we point to this one, this element, that we make changes on it. When we point on it, it changes from the normal mouse cursor to the hand. And this is the pointer. And also we have the grab. So when we point to our element that we made changes on it, So it shows the open hand for me. So you will use this value of the cursor when you have a content that is able to move. And another value which is all scroll. All scroll. So you see when we point to this text, it says you can scroll this element to anywhere you want. And this is the benefit of this value. Another value we have and cell. Let's point to the element. How see it shows a plus for me. It says you can add cell to this one, and this you will use it not at the current time when you have a content that you can add a cell to it. And now even if I click on it, so it will not add a cell for it because my content is not available to add a cell for it. Another value which is copy. How you see it shows the cursor larger and it shows a plus over it. So this means you can copy this one. And another value of the cursor which is resize and the resize. Resize and resize do the same function. So let's write the resize. This says you can resize this one. How you see the mouse cursor look like this? You can resize this one. And the resize, it do the same function. How you see both of them are doing the same function. So this is the benefit of resize and resize. And the content menu. Content menu is our normal mouse that shows on the screen. How you see? This is our normal mouse. And another value, we have color resize. You will use this one when you want to resize the columns. How you see mouse cursor look like this. Another value, which is alias. And these are all values of the mouse cursor, and this is so important when you're working as the web designer.
And now, what is the opacity and how to use it?
First, if we have two elements here, for example, I write h1 and write something inside it, for example, hello world, and then inside the paragraph, I'll write Wiomax Tech. And then let's go to the CSS to do it practically. Let's call our element. We will call one element only because we will apply it on one of them only. So let's call the h1. And then let's write the opacity. We will determine the opacity by the percent. For example, I will determine 10%. I see the opacity decreases. But when I make the opacity 0%, the text will disappear because the opacity is 0. And we can change the opacity to any number, for example 50%. How see? This is how the opacity works in the CSS.
And now something else which is important in the CSS language, and let's get to learn how to use it.
First, if I have these elements here, I have a parent and I have two children inside the parent. And this is how it looks. So let's go to the CSS. So we did these changes in the CSS to look like this. So let's start with the first one, which is the position. Let's use the static. Position static is a default position of the elements. When you write an element without any changes on it, without determining a position, so its position is a static value. So the static is a default value of all the elements when you don't determine the position. And now you notice when I use the position static, and even if I use the right, left, bottom and the top with it, it will not make any changes on it, for example. So let's do it practically. For example, let's use the top. Let's use top 20 pixels. I see it will not change anything. And this is the position static, which is the default value of the position. So let's delete this one. So for your information, we make changes on the first child, which is this one. This is the class of the first child. To make sure the first child, and this is the second child class, and I call both of them with the parent. And let's make changes on the first child with using another value of the position, which is the position relative. Position relative is almost like the position static. So you notice right now when I use the position relative, it will not make any changes on it. But the difference of the relative from the static, I can use the right, bottom, left and top with the relative value. But I can use this top, right, bottom, left with the static value. And let's use this one with the position relative. And let's use top. Let's use top, for example, 20 pixels. How you see it moves the red one, the first child, by 20 pixels from the top. And this one covers the yellow one by 20 pixels. And when I use the 80 pixels, it will cover all of the element. And let's use the 10 pixels. I see this is the result of the relative. It's same of the static, but you can top, right, bottom, left with it. And let's use the right. Let's use the right 10 pixels. And you notice right now the element moves from the right by 10 pixels, and also it overflows the parent element by 10 pixels. I see it overflows this one by 10 pixels. And this is how the position relative works. But now the first one overcomes the second one because the first one is relative and I did not make any changes on the second one. But when I use the second one position relative, let's use the position relative on this one, position relative, the second one will overcome on the first one. And this means the last one you make changes on it or make the same position, the same change on it, the last one will overcome the first one. So how you see the second one shows over the first one. And when I delete this one, the first one will overcome on it. And this is how the position relative works. And let's delete this one. So we have another value of the position, which is absolute value. Absolute value, position absolute, let's delete this one. So you notice right now when I use the position absolute, it directly ignores the second one, the yellow one. And the other thing, it deletes the whole space here that does not contain the text. How you see, it just remains the first child with the background and deletes all the background of the red which does not contain the text. And also we can use top, bottom, right, left with the absolute value. And let's use it. First one, let's use the top, enter, for the pixels. How you noticed right now, it moves the first child that I make changes on it from the top by for the pixels. And also you notice that it deletes the whole background of the first child, which does not contain the text. And let's use this one on the second one also. Let's choose the position. Let's choose the absolute. How you see, it deletes the background of the second one also, which does not contain the text. And now I will use the bottom. Let's use the bottom 0 pixels. It will directly get outside of the background, which is parent. So how is this possible? So I wrote inside the parent and it gets outside of it. And how to fix this problem? To fix this problem, we need to use the absolute value and the relative value together. So with using the absolute and relative value together, so we will be able to fix this problem. And let's use it practically. So the first one, which is the parent, so now I write both of the first child and second child inside the parent. How you notice right now, this is the class parent and this is the first child and second child I wrote inside the parentheses. And let's give it the background. It's background color red, and the second one is yellow. So now I'll use the both background values, relative and the absolute together. I will give to the parent the position. I'll give it the relative. So I give to the parent the position relative. And this one, I will make changes on the first child, so I will not use the second child. So which one you use is not a problem, so I will make changes on the first child. So I will make the position of the first one absolute. First child, I will make it absolute. So now I use the position relative for the parents and I use the position absolute for the first child. And let's change this one, bottom, to the 0 pixels. How you see, I make it the 0 pixel, but it will not get out from the parentheses. So how you notice, I make the bottom 0 pixel without getting out from the parent element. And this is the benefit of using the relative value with the absolute value. This you will need it when you have a child inside the parent. So even if I write the right 0 pixel, so it will not get out of here. So how you notice that the first of the lesson, I use the relative and it get out from the parenthesis and it overflows the parenthesis. And now, because I use the relative absolute together, it will not get out from the parent element. And now you learned what relative means and what the absolute means. So let's delete this one first. So we have another value which is called the fixed. Let's use the position and choose the fixed. So with using the fixed value, we need to scroll the body. So I will change the height of the body, height to 500 pixels. So I changed the height of the body to be able to scroll here, because you will learn the fixed value with the using scrolling. So when I make scroll here, this element, the first element that I make changes on it, that I choose the position fixed on it. So let's scroll it. It will stay at its place without moving with the scrolling. So the other elements will disappear with the scrolling, but the first child will stay here. So anywhere I determine, for example, let's choose the top 20 pixels, so it will stay at the 20 pixels. So how you notice? So it will stay at the 20 pixels of the body. So let's use the 40 pixel. It will stay here. How you notice? It will not move from this place that I determined. And this is how fixed value works in the position. And we have another value of the position, which is called the sticky. With using the sticky value, we need a lot of the text here. So let's use the div here to write a lot of the text here, and let's copy this one and then paste it. And then after this one, let's use another div and write inside it a lot of the text. Let's copy this one and then paste it a lot of times. How you notice, I have a lot of text in the website here, and it overflowed the background, so it's not a problem. And after that, we have to change the background of the parent, because all of these elements I wrote inside the parent, so I need to increase the height of the parent element to 5000, for example, to contain all of the elements inside. And I choose the 0 pixel. It will start from the 0 pixel, and keep your eyes on the first child when it reach here. So let's scroll this one. First child, has the first child stay sticky here when it reaches to the 0 pixels. So it's not like fixed. When I use the fixed, so it will stay fixed at the same place that I determined. So here I use sticky. It will be sticky here or any place you want, and it will not disappear with the another elements. How you notice? It will stay at the very top of the website. And let's use the greater number. For example, let's choose 20 pixels, and let's go to the scrolling. How you notice it will be sticky at the 20 pixels of the screen. How you notice it will not start from the very top of the website. I use the 50 pixels to start from. Let's go to the very top and make scrolling. How you notice it will start from the 50 pixels of the screen. And this is what position is, and this is how the position important in the designing of the website.
And another thing, which is the Z index, and let's go to learn it also.
First, if I have these elements here, each one with different background, and I give to each of them a class, and let's go to the CSS. This change we make in the CSS to look like this. So first, what is the Z index, and when we will use the Z index? Z index we'll use it when we have a lot of layers under each other. So I want to get a layer from the very bottom of the layers, and to prove it, let's use it practically. So let's change the position of this one, of all of them, to the absolute position. Let's copy this one and this one. So now we have 3 layers under each other, and to prove that, let's move it a little bit. For example, the first one, let's move it 10 pixels from the top 10 pixels, and then the right left, enter 10 pixels, and then let's copy this. and then paste here. This changes to 50 and this one to 50 to be more beautiful. How you notice we have 3 layers under each other, and I want to show this one, the last one on the screen, and not the 3. I want to show the 1 or 2, not 3. So to do this and to fix this problem, we have a z index. So let's use the z index and use it on the first one, which is the 1, the green. So let's use the index z index, and we will determine it by the numbers. For example, I will give it a big number to be greater than all of them. So we have 3 elements. I will make it 3. How you notice I got the green one, the 1, from the very bottom of the layers, and this is the benefit of the z index. So when you apply it to the second one, paste it here, so the 2 will rise to here. So how you notice the 2 shows on the screen and the others are in the behind of the 2. So let's make some another changes on it. For example, I will change this one z index to 3, and this one z index 2. Sorry, let's make this one 3, and this one let's make it 1. How you notice, so the greatest number is 3, so the 1 is on the very top of the layers, and the second one, which is 2, the 2 is red one, this one, it's behind it, and the 1 is in the very bottom of the layers. And this is how the z index work, and we use this one when you have layers behind each other. So if I don't use the position, so let's delete the position here and here. So I can use z index if I don't have the position, so I don't have layers behind each other. So why I'll use the z index? It's not possible to use something you don't need it. So I have all layers here, I don't have behind each other, so I will use it when I have the layers behind each other. So now I don't have, so for this we use the position to explain the z index. And this is very important for designing a so beautiful thing in the CSS language.
And now the shadow classes in the CSS language.
So I have these elements to make changes on it. I have these elements for the changes. So what's the shadow classes? Shadow classes are unreal classes, and we use it to make changes on the elements. They are unreal classes because they're unreal classes. We use it in the CSS, and let's use it practically. And let's call our element the first one. I'll make this change on the first one, which is class 1. So let's use the first one, which is hover, and to use it we need to write a column here, and then we will use the classes. For example, now I will use the hover. I used column, and after that I used hover, and then I will make changes on it. And what is the hover? What is this class? So when I move the mouse to some element, to an element, for example this one, so I'm making hovering on this element. So now I am making hovering on the 1. The mouse is over the 1. So now I'll say to the CSS, when I make hovering to an element, make some changes on the element. So when I'm hovering on the element, the first one, which is 1, so make these changes. So change the color to the red. So let's go to hover this one, the one. How you notice when I'm hovering on it, it changes to the red. But when I'm hovering to the 2 and the 3, you will not notice any changes because I made changes on the first one only. And I can say any changes, for example, font size. Font size, let's change to the larger. And let's make hovering. How you notice when I'm hovering, it changes to bigger. And the color turns to the red. And also I can say when I'm hovering, make display none. Display none. Which means disappear it. When I'm making hovering, disappear this element. So let's make hovering. How you notice? I'm making the hovering, it disappears. How you notice? The number 1 disappears. How you notice? I'm hovering and the element disappears. Another class which is any links. Any link. So now I'll make changes on the all links that I have in my website. So first let's write some links here. For example, any link. So even if not real, Google, be this one. And Facebook. And the Twitter. So I have 3 links here, and I have text decoration underline in the text. So I want to make changes to any link I have. For example, text decoration. So text decoration none. So let's delete this one. I forgot to delete this one. So how you notice right now, it deletes the underline for all of the links in the website. When I delete this one, and I'll make comment, so it will return the underline for the links, and this controls it. And any changes I can make on it, for example, color, I can make it red to any link. So this is how the any link works. And another class which is the checked. So we will use this when we have a checkbox. Let's delete this one. Go to the HTML to write a checkbox. Let's write an input checkbox. We have a checkbox here. So how you notice we have this checkbox here, and let's give it a class. For example, checkbox. And let's copy the class. Let's go to the CSS to call it the checkbox. This is our class. If I checked, If I checked display none. So now when I make this one checked, so it will disappear. I say to the CSS, if I check it, the checkbox make the display none. So let's go to check this one. How you notice the checkbox disappear, and this is how checked class works in the CSS. And another class, let's delete this one and this one. Another class which is the focus. And let's go to the HTML to write something, for example input for the text. This is our input. And let's go to the CSS to call the input. We have an input and then input focus. If I focus to the input like this, make some changes on it. For example, border, enter, solid, and red, and then 5 pixels. And let's go to focus this one. How you notice it changed the border to the red and makes solid and then 5 pixels. And this is how the focus works. When I focus to this one, make some changes on it. And this is how focus works, and these are the studio classes. So we have a large number of studio classes. We have these studio classes. So let's write this one to prove that. So you have all of these studio classes and studio elements. So it's not believable to explain all of these classes and elements. But with the projects and with the new lessons, you will learn a large number of these classes and elements. And now let's learn the pseudo elements and how to use it. So now I have this element here and I have a text inside it, a paragraph inside it. So let's go to the CSS to call our element dot one, and then to write the pseudo elements. So you need to write 2 columns like this, 2 columns, and then you write the name of the pseudo element. So you have a large number of the pseudo elements. I can't explain them one by one, so I will explain some of them, and with the new lessons and with the projects you will learn a large number of the pseudo elements. And let's use the first one, which is the first letter. We have the first letter. So now I'll make changes on the first letter of the paragraph. So first letter, change the color of it, color, to the blue. And then background color to the red. And then the font size to the XX large. And now I made changes on the first letter of my paragraph. How you notice right now, it looks like this, and this you will need it. And also I can change the border or any changes I can do on it, solid, and I can make it blue and 5 pixels. How you notice this is changes that I made on the first letter of the paragraph. And this is how the first letter works. And I can copy this one. Let's copy this one and then paste it here and change this one to the first line. This is another stereo element, which is the first line, and let's change this one to the yellow and this one to the green, and let's delete this one. And we make changes on the first line of the paragraph. And these are two of the important stereo elements in the CSS, and these are so beautiful things in the CSS. It will help you to design beautiful things. And don't forget, in the stereo classes we write only one column, and in the stereo elements we write two columns to distinguish between them. And this is how stereo elements work. And I will told you we have a large number of these stereo elements, and you will learn it with the new lessons and with the new project.
And now let's learn the before and the after.
First, if I have this parent here and I have this child inside it, and I have a paragraph inside the child, and this is class parent and this is class 1. And let's go to the CSS to call our element. So first, what is the before and what is the after? Before means make changes before the element, means here. And the after means make changes after the element, means here. So this is before and this is after. I will make changes after element. I will make changes before the element. So first let's call the element. Let's call the parent. We have this parent, and let's change the position to the relative. So this is the position relative, and let's call the one the child. So now we call the child, which is class 1, and then let's use the stereo elements. And now we write the columns, and then let's write the before. This is before. So when we use before and after, we need to use this property, which is content. So you can let it empty and you can write something inside it. So I will let it empty. And then let's change the position to the absolute. After that, let's change the width to the 5 pixels, and then the height to the, for example, 95 pixels, and then the background color blue, background color blue, and then the left -10 pixels, or 5 pixels. Yeah, this is good. And how you notice we made these changes before the element, and we can make any changes on it. So I explained through this line we can write anything before the element, and we can do the same thing on the after. Let's copy this one and let's paste it here, and let's change this to the after, and let's change this to the right, and let's change the top to the 0. And this is how to make changes on the before and the after of the element. And also we can change the border radius of it. For example, border radius to the 10 pixels. I noticed it changed the border radius of it, and we will learn the border radius in the next lesson, so I did not explain it, but we can use any changes on it.
And after that, let's learn what is the content which we use with the before and the after. And here we go.
So first, let's call our element, which is div, and then let's use before or the after, but I will use the before. 2 columns and then before. And let's make the margin left 10 pixels to be more clear. You learned at the last lesson when we use the before and the after, then we need to use the content. Content like this. At the last lesson, I told you that you can leave it empty or you can write anything inside, or you can use anything of this inside the content. And this lesson is about this step, to use this things inside the content, these values. And then you can change the width of this one, size of this one, and the height, or any change you can do on it. And we will now use it practically. For example, height, let's determine the 10 pixels, and then the width 10 pixels, and then background color, let's try the blue. And then you need to determine the position of it. Let's make it absolute. How you notice here, it shows like this. And then you can change the position of it to the anywhere you want. For example, left 10 pixels, or any thing you want, any position you want. So this is, I'll tell you how you will use it. And now you learn the empty one, and this is the empty one. So let's use another values. Let's delete these changes. And then let's change the background of this one, this element, background color. Let's make it aqua to be more clear. And then margin, let's make it 10 pixels, because we'll use a lot of this here. So the another one is the counter. Another value is the counter. We'll use counter here. You see here I use the content in the before element, and then I determine this value. And then here inside the div itself, you will write the counter. You write counter incrementer, and then you will give it a name. Any name you want, you can give it to the counter increment. For example, I'll make it Max. This is the name of the counter, and then you will copy this name, this one, inside here, right here. Delete this one. And then let's make changes on it. For example, let's make the position first one, because it's necessary. Position absolute, and then size. Let's make size larger, 50 pixels. Background color red. This one show it here, and then margin left 10 pixels. Not this one. Margin right 10 pixels, this, and then here under the position, let's make the left 10 pixels like this, and then any change to make on it, let's change the width to 10 pixels just to be more clear. Let's change this one to 50. And then here under the position, let's make right 10 pixels to be more clear. And then when I add another div like this, it will add 2, another div will add 3, and then will count till I don't stop adding the divs. So let's copy this one and then let's paste it. How you notice? Adding 2, 3, 4, and the 5. How much you add, it will add the numbers to this one. And this is the purpose of the counter in the content. So we have another value which is called the URL. Let's delete this one and let's write the URL. Enter. So this one, when you have any file in your computer and you want to show on the website, so you can use the content URL, and let's use it practically. So I have a picture. I will write the name of the picture or the URL of the picture that I have. So I have the sky. How you notice it shows right here, and let's delete this one. How you notice it shows right here, and I can use the margin and the anything I want. Let's make the margin top. Let's make 30 pixels or the greater number 70. To be more clear, how you notice it shows like this. And let's delete this one. I notice it shows like this, and then you can control the size, width, or anything you want. So this is how content URL work. And we have another value which is called the attribute. So let's delete this one and let's make this a comment. Yes. And then let's use our value which is called attribute, which is attr, express the attribute. So let's go to the HTML to add another thing which is a, and then let's write a link, example HTTPS, and then .com, and then let's write here a lorem to write a large text for us, and then let's copy this one and then to the A, paste here attribute. Our attribute is href. Let's write the before with it, and then let's change the background color to the red, and then the color, let's change it to the black, and this one let's make changes on it. Let's change the position of the attribute, which is href. Let's change to the bottom 0. I notice it changed to the very bottom of the website, and you can use the pixels also, for example 50 pixels, and let's make the bottom or the top to the 200 pixels, and this is very good here. So this was the attribute value in the content, which we use in the before and the after. And this is how the content work in the before and the after.
And another thing which is similar to the text shadow, which is the box shadow, but it has a little bit difference from the text shadow. And let's go.
First, let's write a div here, and then let's go to the CSS to call the div our element. Let's change the background color to the aqua, and then let's change the width to 200 pixels, and then the height to 100 pixels, and then let's make the margin left, let's make it 30 pixel or 50 pixel, and then margin top 70 pixels to be more clear, and then let's use the box shadow. This is our item, this is the property. So what the box shadow requires from us, it requires us the horizontal shadow, vertical shadow, spread of the shadow, color of the shadow, and the inset or the outset. So this is almost like the text shadow, but the text shadow does not contain the spread of the shadow and the inset or the outset inside the text shadow. But we have in the box shadow, and let's use it practically. So at the first you will determine the horizontal shadow. So for example 10 pixels, this is the horizontal shadow we determined, and after that we will determine the vertical shadow 10 pixels is in the horizontal shadow, and then the spread of the shadow, the degree that the shadow spreading. So let's determine the, for example 10 pixels. How you notice how it's spreaded. So this is almost like the blur of the shadow. So in the text shadow we had the blur of the shadow, but here we have the spread of the shadow, which is almost like the blur of the shadow. So after that, let's determine the color of the shadow. So let's determine the red. How you notice it determines. So the inset or the outset. So this means you want the color to the inside or the outside. So now the color is outside. So let's change to the inside. How you notice it change it to the inside. And let's make this 0 and this one 0. How you notice? Let's change this one to greater number to be more clear. Example 40 pixels. How you notice this is the inside shadow. Greater number 80. How you notice this is how the box shadow works. And let's change this one to the outside. And another thing, we can use a lot of shadows here. How much you want, you can use it. For example, let's use it. Let's make this one 2 pixels and then 2 pixels. This is horizontal and the vertical shadow. And then the spread of the shadow, let's make this one 80 or the 100 pixels, and then let's determine the color of it. Let's determine the blue. How you notice this is we use 2 shadows together, and then let's use another one to be more clear. Let's use the 3 pixels with 3 pixels, the vertical, and then the spread, let's make 120, and then pixels, and then let's make this one yellow. So yellow is not clear as we want. Let's change it to the red one. This is more clear, or the 150 to be more clear. How you notice we can use a lot of the shadows together, a lot of box shadows together.
And now something related to the border, which is the border radius. And let's go to explain it.
So I have this element here which shows like this. I change the background and then determine the width, height, margin left and the margin top to look like this. So what is the border radius? Border radius which you can cut from the edges of the any element you want. So let's use it practically. Let's write our property which is the border radius. This is the border radius. So when you write the border radius directly, so it will cut from the all edges of the element. And also we can control with the each edges of the element that we have. So now let's determine the 20 pixels. How you notice it cut 20 pixels from all the edges of the element. And the greater number 50 pixels, how you notice, and then you can make it 100%. How you notice this is the shape of the element when we make it 100%. And when we make this one 100 by 100, it will look like this. And let's delete this one to control the edges of the element. So we have the border radius top left, border radius top left. So this one we will cut from this edge only. For example, I will cut 40 pixels from the top left. You notice it cut from the top left only. And then the border radius top right. Border radius top right. I will cut the 20 pixels How you notice, cut 20 pixels from the top right, and we have the border bottom left radius, this one, and let's determine the 20 pixels. Notice it cut the 20 pixels from the bottom left. And also we have the border right bottom radius, which is this one. So let's cut this one, the 100 pixel. How you notice it shows like this. And when I make this one 0, which is the top left, I'll make it 0 pixel, and then this one 0, I'll make this one 100 and this one 100, which will look like this. And then you can use any shape you want. Let's make this one 0. How you notice it looks like this. How the programmers make the filters for the Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media websites. And our lesson today is about this step. And before we start the lesson, don't forget to subscribe our channel, click on the ring button, like this video and share the video with your friends. And let's start with our lesson. So we have this image here. We will make changes on this image, and then you will use the filter. We have these filters in the CSS language. We have all these filters here. So first one, I will use the grayscale, and this one grayscale changes it to us an old photo, and this is 100% of the grayscale, so we can control it, we can change. So we have decreased from 0.0 to 1, which we can control the grayscale of the picture. So I'll determine the 0.5, and this is the 0.5 degrees, and when I make it 0.9, it will look like this. And then I'll determine the 1. How you notice it fully changes, and we have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5, and we have 6, 7, 8, 9, and this is the degrees of the grayscale. And another one, we will use the blur. So the blur, we will determine it by the pixels. So we can control it, the blur by the pixels. For example, 10 pixels of the blur, like on this image. So how you notice right now, this is 10 pixels of the blur. So let's use the 5. How you notice, 3, 2, 1. And also you can use the pointers, 0.1, 0.9, any number you want. And this is how the blur works. Another filter, which is contrast. So let's make it 100. How you notice this is 100. So we have no unit for this one. We have no unit for the contrast. You'll just write the number, for example 5. How you notice we can use any number we want, and this is how the contrast works. Another one, which is brightness. Let's make it 10. I notice this is the brightness, small number, 2, 0.1. I notice this is the brightness of it, 0.2, 3, 4, 5. This is the brightness of the picture. How you notice. And another one, let's use the invert. How you notice this is the invert. And this is how to use the filters. You can use any filter here, and let's use the rotate. We will determine this one with the degrees, for example 100 degrees. How you notice this is the effect of the rotate on the photo. So this is how the filters work in the CSS language, and you can use any filter we have here.
And let's start with the transform properties. And first one, let's learn the 2D transform and scale value in the CSS.
So we have the transform scale X and transform scale Y. What is the transform scale X and the transform scale Y? Transform scale X means extending from the X, and the transform scale Y means extending from the Y, which means the height and the width. But there is a very big difference between the height, width, and the scale X and scale Y. And our lesson today is about this part. So if we have this shape in front of us to make our practical lesson on it, so let's write our property, which is the transform. Transform. So this lesson is about the scale X and the scale Y. So first let's start with the scale X. So this is the scale X. So the default value of scale is the number 1. So when I write the number 1, so nothing will change. But when I write a greater number, for example, 3, so it will extend from the scale X by the 3 times of the default value. So you can use the points with it, for example, 1.5. How you notice it extended from the X by the 1.5 times. So this is the scale X, and after that let's use the scale Y. So just we need to change the X with Y. How you notice it extended from the scale Y by 1.5 times, and also we can use the greater numbers. For example, let's use 1.9. How you notice this is how the scale X and the scale Y works. So you have to remember that the default value of the scale X and the scale Y, or the scale only, is the 1, which is 1 times 1. But when you use the 2, means 2 times 1. So this is what the default value means, and this is how the multiplies means. How you notice it changes from the width and the height. This is what the transform can do. But there is very big difference between the transform and the width or the height. So to prove that, so let's make this one comment and let's use the width or the height. So I'll use the width. I will use the 300 pixels. How you notice it changes the width of the shape, but this word stays as it is. But when I take this one out of the comment, so let's do this and make this one inside the comment, how you notice it changes from the size of the word. So this word was not like this before, and the transform changes from the size of the word. When I use the greater number, for example 9, how you notice it changes from the height of the letters, and it puts the letters inside each other, so you can write the letter what is written. And this is the main difference between the transform and the width and the height. And we need to learn another thing, which is the minus numbers, minus values for the scale. So when I use the scale Y minus 1, how you notice it's flipping the shape from the top to the bottom. So this is the flipping from the Y. And when I make the scale X, how you notice it's flipping from the left to the right, and which means from the X. And this is how the minus value works in the transform in this property.
And after that, let's learn the 2D transform and the rotate value.
So again, if you have this shape in front of us for the practical lesson, and let's write our property, which is the transform. Transform, and let's choose the rotate. So to determine the value of the rotate, we will use the degrees. We have a lot of the units to use, but we will use the degree because it is very easy to use. So how you know rotate means the rotating of the element, rotating something. So this is the two-dimensional rotating, not three-dimensional. This is two-dimensional rotating. So we will use the degrees with the rotating or the turns. So let's write the 10 degrees. How you notice that the shape, this square one, rotates by 10 degrees. So when you increase the number, so it will rotate by more degrees, for example, 20 degrees. How you notice, so 29 or the 50 degrees. So this is what the rotate means, and this is how it works. So also we can use the minus degrees with the rotating. So let's use the minus 5 degree. So how you notice it rotates by the left side. So how you notice when we use the minus value with the rotating, it rotates by the left side. So let's use the greater number to be more clear. For example, 25. How you notice this is how the minus values works in the rotating. So now I'll give you another information about the transform. So now I use the only rotate for the transform. So when I use another value, for example the transform, I will use the scale X. I will use the 3. So this one will not work. So when I use the two values, the first one will not work and only the last one will work. So to fix this problem, we will write it in this form. So inside this one, after the rotate, I will use the scale X, and I'll use the 3. So both of them are working right now, and this is how to fix this problem. Again, if you have this shape in front of us to make our practical lesson on it. So let's go to the shape, this one, to write our property and to do practical lesson. So in the transform values, we have the translate, and we have translate X and the translate Y, which are the translate the shape from the x-axis and from the y-axis. And let's write our property, which is the transform. Inside the transform, we have the translate, and we have the translate X and the translate Y. Let's try the translate X first. Translate X. And inside this one, inside the translate X, which is translate X value, you will determine the value by the pixels. For example, I'll write the 50 pixels. Translate from the x-axis by the 50 pixels. And this is how it translates the shape by the 50 pixels from the x-axis. And also we have the translate Y. Let's delete this one and write the translate Y. So it will translate the shape by the y-axis by 50 pixels, and this is so easy. Listen.
And the last value of the 2D transform, which is the skew value, and let's learn it.
So first, what is the skewing? Skew x and skew y. Skew x means skewing from the x-axis, and skew y means skewing from the y-axis. And let's do it practically. Let's write our property, which is transform. We have transform, and inside the transform value, let's write the skew. We have skew only, skew x, skew y. So we can use the skew only and write the x and y value together with writing the comma between them. And also we can write the skew x and skew y in the different sentence, and I will use this one, which are in the different sentences, and we can use them together also. And we will determine the value of the skew x and skew y by the degrees. So I'll say transform skewing from the x-axis by the 10 degrees. Have you noticed it skewing from the x-axis by the 10 pixels, and I will increase the number to 100. How you notice it's skewing the shape by 100 pixels. So let's determine the smaller number. How you notice this is how it's skewing by the x star, x-axis, and the skew y, how it works. So let's use the skew y also. How you notice it's skewing by the y-axis with the 50 degrees, and also we can use both of them together. So now we use skew y 10 degrees, and after that let's write the skew x and then 10 degrees. So now we use both of them together, skewing from the y-axis by 10 degrees and by the 10 degrees from the x-axis. And let's increase this one to 30 degrees, and this is how it works. And also we can use both of them together, how I told you at the first of the lesson. So we can use the skew. So you write a number, degree. For example, I'll determine, disclose this one. I'll determine 10 degrees, and after that I'll use comma, and after that I'll use the y-axis. So this one is x-axis and the last one is y-axis. So in y-axis I'll use the 30 degrees, and this is how it works to write both of them together.
Let's go to learn the 3D transform. And the first thing of the 3D transform, which is the translate value, and let's go and start with it.
First, if you have this shape in front of us, and this is how I made this shape. This is the CSS. I use these properties and these elements to make this shape. And let's go to the CSS. I'll open it in the NSpec. So this is the NSpec. So this is how to open the NSpec, the last one. So in the 3D transform translate value, you have to know three things: the translate 3D and perspective origin. So what is the perspective and what is the perspective origin? Perspective means how much the element is far from the screen. So the distance between the screen and the element. So you will determine some pixels. you will say that this is the distance between the shape and the screen. So what is the perspective origin? Perspective origin is the direction that you want to look at the shape in the 3D. So you will determine a direction that you want to look at the shape in the 3D. So let's go to our element, this one, and inside I have the div parent and the child, which is this one. So for your information, that you will write the perspective and perspective origin inside the parent element. You will not write inside the child element. You will write the translate transform 3D inside the child element, and you will write the perspective and perspective origin inside the parent element. So this is the parent element, which is class contents, and this is the child element. So let's go to the CSS and let's go to the child. This is the child CSS properties. So let's write the transform. This is the transform, and inside it let's write the translate 3D. I have translate 3D, and inside it I'll write the X, Y, and Z axis. So I'll let the X value 0 and the Y value 0, and I will control only the Z axis. So now I determine the X, Y, Z axis, and I'll go to the parent element to add the perspective and the perspective origin. So let's write the perspective first, perspective, and I will determine, for example, 200 pixels. So now I determine 200 pixels means the shape is far from the screen by 200 pixels. And after that, I'll add the perspective origin. Perspective origin, you will determine two directions or one direction. For example, I'll write the bottom and then the left, bottom left. So now I'll look at the shape from the bottom left. This is the bottom and the left, as you notice right now. So now I will go to the child element and I will control with the Z axis. This is the child element, and this is the translate 3D. This is the Z axis. So now I'll increase this number, the Z axis. I'll first make it 50 pixels. So I'll make the perspective origin center. So I want to come toward me directly. This is the center, and after that again center, and again center. So now I made the perspective origin center. I want to look from the center, and let's go to the child element to increase the Z axis. So here, let's make this one bigger to be more easy to control it, and let's increase this one. So when I increase the Z axis, the element will come toward the screen, will come toward me. But when it reaches to the perspective value, the shape will disappear. Means this shape passed the screen. So when it passed the screen, you will not see that it means. So let's increase it to the 200 pixels. How you notice, when it reaches to 200, it disappears. So this is what the perspective means 200 pixels far from the screen. So when this one reaches to 200, the shape disappears. And this is what is the translate 3D and what is the perspective and perspective origin. And to be more clear, I'll change the perspective origin to the for example top left or top right. This is, let's change the perspective origin to the left and the top. So now I'm looking at the shape from the top and the left. This is top and this is left. Let's change this one to the bottom. This is from the bottom and from the left. Bottom right. This is how the perspective origin works.
And the other value of the 3D transform, which is the rotate value, and let's learn it also.
So first, what is the 3D transform? How you know 3D is three-dimensional transform of an element. So let's start the practical lesson. Let's write the transform. We have a transform, and then we have a rotate, and we have the rotate x, rotate y, and the rotate z. And first, let's use the rotate x. Rotate x, and we will determine the value of the rotating by the degrees. So rotating by the x-axis with the 30 degrees. 30 degrees. How you notice it rotated by 30 degrees? Let's increase the number to be more clear. 80. How you notice this is the rotating of it? So with the 90 degrees, this shape will disappear. The blue one will disappear. So let's use the 90. How you notice it disappeared? Because it rotated by the 90 degrees. And when I use the 89 or the 88 degrees, so only one line will show right here. So let's use the 88, for example. 88, only one line shows right here. 89 also. So this is how the rotate x works. And also we have the rotate y. So let's decrease this number to 50 degrees. This is the rotating by the x-axis, and the y-axis, this is the rotating by the y-axis. And let's use the greater number, for example 60. This is how the rotating by the y-axis works. And also we can use both of them together, rotate x and rotate y. Rotate x, let's use the 30 degrees, and this is how both of them being together. So let's delete this one. So with using rotate z, you need to use the rotate x and rotate y with it, because when you use the rotate z only, rotate z, so it will rotate normally as to the rotating. So for this, you need to use the rotate x and rotate y with it to be 3D rotating. And to do this, we will delete this one and using the rotate 3D. Rotate 3D. First one, we want the 1. This is x, and the y we want 1, and also the z we want 1, and after that the degrees I want 50 degrees. So this is how all of them working together. So when I delete this one, so when I ignore this one to 0, only from the x and y, and when I ignore this one to 0, the X and Z will work, and when I ignore this one, the Y and Z will work only. Let's ignore this one. And this is how the rotate 3D works in the CSS language.
And now let's learn the transition in the CSS language.
Listen, first, if we have this shape in front of us to make our practical lesson on it, so here let's write our property, which is the transition. So this is this shape. The transition requires us three major things, which are the transition duration, transition property, and the transition delay. And I will explain it one by one. So the first one, let's write the transition duration. Transition duration is a duration that the transition process will take to continue. So let's determine the duration, for example, 5 seconds. So now we determine the transition duration, and let's determine the transition property and learn the transition property. Transition property. What is the transition property? Transition property is the properties that you will determine to be done through this transition. So after we make changes on it, I will determine this one. So you will learn this one when we make changes on it, actually. So let's use the transition delay. We have the transition delay. So transition delay is 1 second. Transition delay is 1 second. So transition delay says after this duration, the process will start. So let's make changes on it. So we have this one, the TR, and after that I'll make the hover on it. So on the hovering, so make these changes for me. So now we will say on hovering, do these changes for me. So on hovering, make the width 500 pixels and the height 300 pixels, and then the color, let's change to the red. I want these changes by the hovering and by using this transition. So now let's hover this one, let's hover the shape. And you notice by hovering this shape and by the duration of 5 seconds and delaying after hovering 1 second, the width changes to 500 pixels and the height changes to 300 pixels and the color of this word changes to the red color. And this is how the transition works. And now you have to learn what is the transition property. Transition property are the properties that you will determine to be done through this transition. So now I will determine the width, and after that I will determine the height. So now I determine only the width and the height. So the only width and the height will be done through this transition. And the color will change directly, will not be done through the transition. How you notice when I make the hovering on it, the color will directly change to the red. How you notice when I make hovering, it directly changes to red, and it's not be done by the transition. And this is what is the transition property. And to learn the transition delay more clearly, let's change the transition delay to the 5 seconds. So after hovering on the shape by the 5 seconds, the process will start. So this is what the transition delay means.
And the last thing in our course, which is the animation, how to make animation with using the CSS language.
First we have this shape in front of us, and this is how I made this shape, and we'll make another changes on this one. So first let's change the background to the white, and then let's give it the border. The border 5 pixels, and then solid example, and then let's make it gray. This is our border, and then the border left color transparent. I'll make it transparent. Transparent will delete this part from the border. So here first we need to write the alt mark, this one, and then the keyframe. This is the keyframe, and then you will give a name to the keyframe, which is the identifier of the keyframe. So any name you want to give it is not a problem. So I will give it the rotating. This is the name of the keyframe. And after that, inside the keyframe, you write the changes that you want to make on this one. And you will determine that how much the time that each one will take by the person. So for example, I want to make 2 changes. So first one, I'll make it the 50%, and then I'll open the curly braces. And then I'll write the properties. For example, I want the background color changed to the red. And after that, I'll make another change to the 100%. I want to change the background color to the blue. Background color, this is the blue. So I want to make changes on this one, this element. First thing I have to do to write the name of the keyframe. So this is the animation name. So what is the name of the animation? Is the rotating. So now I wrote the name of the animation. So still it does not work because it needs to determine the duration of the animation. After that, I will determine the animation duration. This is the animation duration. I want in 3 seconds. I want the process be done in 3 seconds. So how you notice when I reload this one? First time the background color will change to the red, and after that will change to the blue, and after that will disappear. So this is the process is done. So now you know how the animation works. So I will delete these properties and I will make another changes on it. For example, first one, I'll make the 100% on the rotate. I want to this circle be rotating. So I want to this circle rotate by 360 degrees, which means a turn. So let's write 360 degrees. Degrees. So now it will rotate one turn and it will stop. So to make it rotate continuously, so we have another properties for the animation, so we will learn in this lesson. So another thing in the animation is the animation iteration count. So I'll determine how much turns this one will turn. So let's write the property animation iteration count. So if you want to rotate continuously, you will write the infinite. So animation iteration count, this is you will determine how much turns you want to the circle rotate, or any animation else. So for example, I want 3 times only, you write 3. So this circle will rotate 3 times and it will stop. 3 and it will stop. So if you want to be rotating continuously, you write infinite. This is, it will turn continuously. So another thing is the animation timing function. Animation timing function. So this property is the shape of the moving. For example, we have a linear. Linear will move from the first to the end in the same moving. But we have ease, which will move and then will stop and then do another move. So now you see it moving and stop, then will move again. So when we change this one to the linear, so all the moving will be in the same timing, will not stop. So when I make it the ease, this one, it will stop and then will move again. So this is what the animation timing function can do for us, but the linear is the best one for the animation. Let's reload this one. And this is how the animation timing function works. And let's change this one to the 1 second. So another thing in the animation, we have the animation. We have the animation direction. So we have 4 major values for the animation direction. So the alternate, so let's try the alternate. This one will move and then will turn back, will rotate and then turn back. This is what the alternate can do. And then we have the reverse. So now this is the normal one. This is rotating by the right side. So when I make it reverse, this is the reverse, will rotate by the other side. And also we have the mix between the reverse and the alternate. So this is the reverse and the alternate together. So first it will turn back and then it will rotate by the right side. So this is the mix between the reverse and the alternate. And another one, which is the normal. This is the normal rotating. How you notice. And we have another property for the animation, which is animation play state. Animation play state. This is. So we have 2 major values for this one, which is pause and running. When I make running, means the animation works and it is running. But when I make it pause, so the animation will stop. How you notice it stopped from the moving. So we can make a trick for this. For example, let's make. So let's go here and call this element, this class, which is tipper. And then when we make hover on it, make these changes for me. Animation placed it, make it post. So when I make hovering on the animation, so the rotating will start. So let's do it practically. This is the mouse. When I make the hovering, so the animation will stop. Move, it will continue the rotating. Hover, stop, and then will continue. And this is how the animation placed it works, and this is how to make tricks in the animation.
And here we finished our CSS course, and I hope every single information is very clear to you, and I hope you enjoyed the course. And here, don't forget to subscribe our channel, click on the ring button, like this video, and share the video with your friends. And thank you so much for listening, and goodbye. See you in the next lesson and the next video.